I've been to a few mountains in my day, not the highest ones. I have been to Mount Morris. Genesee County people get that one, I guess. But no, I've been a few places that have taken me to greater heights than that. Pikes Peak, I think it's like 15,000 feet. And of course, in the middle of July, I remember going up there and having a snowball fight with a bunch of kids while we were there. That was an experience. I've had the opportunity to travel, through Europe. I've been to the Swiss Alps and, some heights there that just saw some beautiful, beautiful sights. Obviously, I've told you before, I've been to the Grand Canyon and just have been at a point there where just amazed at what I saw in front of me. I had the opportunity to travel to Israel and study over there and climb to the top of Masada, the great fortress of the Israeli people. And it's something that was discovered and excavated back in the middle of the 20th century, but it was built by King Herod, and it's at the southern end of the Dead Sea, and it's just a magnificent sight and a beautiful place to climb to and just to see, some beautiful sights around. I've been to the top of Mount Sinai. Is it the actual spot where Moses received the Ten Commandments? I don't know, but there's a beautiful chapel up there. Celebrated liturgy up there, the Eucharist up on the top of Mount Sinai before. I've been to the top of Mount Tabor, where this story of the Transfiguration takes place. And every time that I think I've gone to those heights, those places, where you've been to a mountaintop, it's given me a different view of the world. It's given me a different vision. And I think each time that I went to these places, as I looked out and saw the beauty of nature, I saw the beauty of the presence of God. It really made me just see things a lot differently. And, each one of these times that I had that chance to be on that mountaintop, I kind of just felt that presence of God, that I knew that God was real. That God was real. Every time I walked away, it was just another thank you, God, for showing me this and showing me your presence in front of me, that I could actually see it. Today's story about the Transfiguration is about the mountaintop. It's about how Jesus takes us up to a mountaintop and we see things just a little bit differently. We see things in a different way, but we begin to see that God is real. This story about the mountaintop where he takes Peter, James, and John, up top there, and then he transfigures before them. He's preparing them for something. He's taking them to the top so that he can prepare them for possibly a valley that they're going to walk through, that they're going to be challenged with. He is preparing them for something they just really didn't understand at that moment. They didn't understand really what was coming into their lives. I mean, that last line of that gospel is just like they were just kind of contemplating, what does it mean, to rise from the dead? That wasn't something that they were familiar with. But what they saw at that moment, it made them reflect back on that moment after they had experienced the death of Jesus. After they experienced the resurrection of Jesus, they looked back at that moment and they knew that there was something more to this man. And that moment showed them the glory of God, that he was real, that he was God, that Jesus wasn't just some great prophet, teacher, rabbi, but that he was God. Like I said, he prepared them for the challenges that they were going to be faced with. And Peter, of course, he's always so bright and never knows exactly what to say, but, sputters off that about, it's good that we're here, and let's build 3 tents, and, that's Peter, he just doesn't think about it just yet. But I want you to think about that mountaintop and how he took them to the mountaintop to prepare them for the challenge that was coming in their life. The challenge of Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection, the challenge of their own life of persecution, their own life of martyrdom that they were going to be faced with. He prepared them, but all along the way, he kept showing them that it's okay. Because guess what? I'm going to get you through this. I'm going to be there because I'm God. And that's a beautiful moment. And you know what? That should speak to us. That should tell us something about the challenges and the valleys that we find ourselves in. I mean, all of you know over the course of the last month, something very difficult that, I've gone through in my life with the loss of my father. I mean, my hero, my roommate for the last 7 years. I mean, it was a difficult thing, losing my dad. It wasn't the easiest thing. It was a valley for sure. And I can tell you that the weekend of his death, so he died on Monday, but that Saturday and Sunday, God took us. Jesus took our family to a mountaintop. We had just an incredible mountaintop experience on that Saturday and Sunday. Because let me tell you, we loved on my dad that weekend, and he still had his eyes open, and we had I love yous from him. Every grandkid had a face-to-face moment with him. I mean, it was just a beautiful mountaintop on that Saturday and Sunday that prepared us for Monday and what lied ahead. Because I can tell you, that mountaintop and that experience with having those last moments with him, I can tell you there's no doubt in my mind, that God was revealing his glory to us just to make it just a little bit easier. It's not easy in the valley. As I look out here, I mean, I know a lot of your stories. I know a lot of the things that you've been through. But, having that trust and that belief and that faith in him, my gosh, does it get us through? Does it lift us up? And I don't know what life would be like without that mountaintop experience that he gives us. Because I know it really helped me. It really helped my family. It lifted us up. And I shared with you, during the funeral that, part of the mountaintop was his words to me, in saying that, man, I'm going to get to see your mom. And then he says, and I'm going to get to see Jesus. I'm going to get to see Jesus. How could you not ask for a better moment and say, go, let it go, be free, go. Again, going to the mountaintop just makes it so much easier when you're faced with that challenge, with that difficulty. Again, I don't know how we do it without it. I really don't. I know he just allows us to see him and then to trust that he'll guide us through that darkest, deepest, most horrible moment in our lives. He will do that. There's something else that was drawn out of this, gospel reading that I've really been just reflecting upon, all week. And, it was kind of that, off-cuff remark that Peter makes like he always does when he says, you know what, Jesus? It was good that we were here. It was good that we were here. I don't think he understood what he was saying. But, it made me think a little bit about it's good that we were here. And I think about the moments in our lives when we have the opportunity to reflect Christ, to reflect Jesus to others. When they're in those challenging moments, when they're in those difficult moments. And they walk away from you and they might stop and look back at you and they say, I'm so glad I came here to see you. I'm so glad I was here with you because I needed this. I needed your faith. I needed your positive attitude. I needed your belief in Jesus so that I could walk away and strengthen my belief. I mean, we're called to do that. We're challenged to do that. Every one of us. You're sitting here in this pew. You're here because you're being fed so that you can go out there and you can reflect. You can reflect Christ to others. You can be Jesus to others so that they do walk away and just say, I'm so glad I was here with you. Now I'll go back to the funeral week again, because I can tell you, I had so many God moments during that week, and several of my kids, after my dad passed, hung out with me all week long, and it was just so good. And I remember Emma saying to me, I'm so glad I stayed. I'm so glad I was here. I'm so glad I just hung out with you all week. And I needed that, because they reflected passion, they reflected compassion, they reflected love, to me, that kind of lifted me up. We need that from each other. We need that so much from each other. I can tell you, every time that I get up to proclaim the gospel and I get up here to share words with you, the only thought that goes through my mind is, Lord, give me the words. Give me the words so that one person sitting out there today hears you through me. Just one of you hear God's voice through me. And I always say that the same thing. Let me be your instrument. Let me be your voice, so that somebody just is turned on to Jesus at this moment. I really think that's what it's all about. He gives us so much in this reading, this mountaintop. But he also gives us that idea that we need to reflect him to others. And I hope maybe in your daily contact, or your contact in your families, your relationships, that when people step away from you, they might look back at you and say, I'm glad I was here. I'm glad I came to see you. Think about that. Because Peter, as quirky as he can be sometimes with his statements, has something brilliant when he just says, it's good that we were here. And I know today, it's good that you're here. It's good that you're here.